today in the statement that were issued by the foreign ministers of Quad. Let's also discuss this with our foreign affairs expert, Mr. Karori Singh. Mr. Singh, thank you very much for joining us. Firstly, what's your take on the announcement? 4 critical areas have been announced: maritime security, port infrastructure, critical minerals, and fuel and energy supply resilience. What do you make of those, and the fact that questions were being raised on the relevance of Quad with Trump wooing China? Do you think now they are unmerited after the statement?
You see how Kuwait emerged. That is the main question, because conventionally U.S. pursued a policy of Indo-Pacific framework, Asia-Pacific framework with Southeast Asia pivot Asia. But later on, during the last Trump's regime, the U.S. changed its policy focus from Asia-Pacific to Indo-Pacific India pivot policy. So the India has a particular interest in the Indo-Pacific region to ensure India's security and India's strategic concerns. And broadly, India wanted to make this region as an engine of the growth of the Indo-Pacific region and the Pacific Island countries. So India's concern was very, very clear. And that is why India did not participate the joint military exercise of Kuwait in South China Sea. Only 3 countries participated because India was not interested to make it a sort of military alliance. So India wanted to make it an engine of economic growth in this region, at the same time to maritime security, free flow of trade, and all these things India was interested. So what points you have referred, it reflects the India's perception clearly. And it was also clear when the 2 foreign ministers, Indian and American foreign ministers, met about 2 days back, and they talked about the terrorism and all these things, security concerns, critical minerals. So this was also in the bilateral discussion between India and the United States. So things were clear. But last week there was another meeting, that was the BRICS foreign ministers meeting. And in that it was expected that the joint communique was not expected. And about the Kuwait meeting, it was expected that some joint statement will be issued. So now whatever the points they have raised and consensus has been evolved, there must be some institutionalized mechanism. And for that mechanism, I think the next summit will take place maybe September, October. Then some institutional mechanism will be established to achieve the goals and to implement the points raised here in the foreign ministers meeting. So I think it is the it's getting a developmental orientation, the Quid, instead of merely a military or security orientation. That is the India's concern, I think. So India, there is no mention of containing the China. Earlier it was narrated that the Kuwait will be for the containment of China. So neither India is interested nor US is interested to give an impression that they want to contain China. Certainly they are concerned about the growing Chinese influence in the Indo-Pacific region, and that influence may have some security and strategic implications both for US and India. So even Australia wants to have a very close cooperation with China as well as US. So the Australian perception is almost similar. So and even the Japan is somewhat more sensitive about the Chinese role in that East Asian Sea and the South China Sea and East China Sea. So the Japan's concerns are very different little bit because of the Taiwan issue and all that. But the Quad is not addressing these issues. Of course, the Japanese concerns are there. So in a way, I think the Indian perception and Indian concerns prevail over the meeting and the joint communique. Over.
Right, sure. Stay on with me, Mr. Singh. In fact, let's now take a look at how the global media is reacting to the meeting. Starting with the coverage of DW News, it's asking, can the Quad stay relevant to boost Indo-Pacific security? That's the big question that many are asking now. Trump's tariffs, peace claims stir tension with Modi. The Quad, which unites the four nations in seeking a free and open Indo-Pacific, has not had a meeting of national leaders since 2024, when then President Joe Biden hosted its